Today I have been sewing a bit on my cube something, and I wanted to show you because trying to write down about sewing these cubes together, it's alright, but it's easier if you see what I'm talking about, because these are not square blocks that you can just line up and sew together. Instead, they have an angle on them, and so you have to consider that. I'm going to start, and I have these on my wall, and if you don't have a wall to keep them up, I do suggest that you mark each block with a letter and a number so that you can keep them straight, because they could get confusing. And I'm going to start with this middle one. I've already done a couple of rows here. And I'm going to start with this top piece, my background top piece, and the first block. And when I take them down from the wall, I have flipped the top piece over onto the top of this cube, and I don't want to set them like this. This is what I don't want. If I line up this pointy triangle right here and have a whole lot of extra over here, then when I sew this, it's going to be too short, because when you take that 1/4 inch seam, it's going to be way in. So you have to line it up so that it is sticking past. I'm going to turn this around so you can see it on this side. See how it is sticking past this straight edge over here? And it should be sticking past at least a 1/4 inch or so. So I usually put, on this type of sewing, I think it helps to pin. So I put a pin right there to keep this triangle sticking out there. I still got quite a bit sticking out over on this side. That's okay. There will be enough there. And I put 2 pins in. And then I'm going to take it to my sewing machine. And I could take it to my sewing machine and feed this in and come down here and do a 1/4 inch seam. But I think a lot of times it's easier if you flip it over. Sometimes I will put my pin on this side now. And I'm going to go down to my sewing machine. And when you're sewing, whenever you can sew on a straight of grain rather than a bias edge, it just does a better job. So I am going to stick this under the sewing machine, and I have to hold my thread so they don't ball up on me. And then I'm going to take my pin out before I get to it, but I'm making a 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to take this out just so that you can see it. You can do chain piecing with this, but and I will later, but I thought I would show you. All right, down here, I'm going to flip this up. And when I flip this up and press it down with my finger, see how this is a straight line. That's what you're aiming for. You don't want this to be right over here and have a big gap there. So you want it to have a nice straight line there. Now this is going to be sticking out. That doesn't hurt a thing. All right. And then on this, I can go to the ironing board in just a minute, and I will press this going up to that top. But now I'm going to add the next block. So I keep this down here. I'm going to go up and get my next block. The next block is going to go like this. So we need to flip one of these over. I'm going to flip this one back. And again, the point of this edge has to stick out. You have to make sort of like ears. If you've got your other points, you got 2 points now, so you got 2 little ears there. And again, I'm going to put a pin here, and then I'm going to go to the other side, and again, I should have 2 ears sticking up there. If you've left your seams there, I'm going to pin again. Now, if for some reason these are not nice and even, you can fudge a little bit if you have to, and if you have to fudge, I would put the bigger piece on the bottom, but luckily for me, these two are matching up pretty nice. So I'm going to once again take them to the sewing machine. I even took a back stitch, I think when I was doing some of my sewing the other day, because I don't want these to come undone. They're going to be up on this design wall, back and forth, while I put them together with another row. All right. And now let's see how they did. Take them out and make sure that this is a straight line and this, or a straight edge, and this is a straight edge. And you can press them with your fingers. If they're, you know, a hair off, I wouldn't worry about it. But if they're very much off, you're going to have problems later, so you need to take them out and do it again and try to get them to make a nice straight edge. Now then, I found out after I had done a few, when I am pressing, if you press them all this way, then you've got a lump there and you've got some lumps here. So I decided the best thing to do was to take my little scissors and trim off these ears that are sticking out, the ones that are in my seam. And now I'm going to take them to the ironing board, and I am going to press this seam open. I found out in my first couple of columns that this just seemed to work better, so let me do that. And I'm hoping then, when I sew them together, when I sew the columns together, that there won't be a whole lot of problems. So now I have my top, and that string hanging here. But the next thing will be just, I will put this one to this one, pin them together, and sew them together in the same way until I get a whole row sewn together, one long row. And then you have to wait until you get all of your rows sewn together before you can actually start sewing rows together. Now I've got some empty spots here, but I'm not quite sure exactly what I'm doing yet. So I'm sewing together what I know for sure. I hope that helps you. If you have any questions, let me know. I will be putting some written directions out with this video, and hopefully this will help explain that to those of you that haven't sewn angle seams before. Thank you.